When you look at somebody like Oprah Winfrey or Richard Branson or Ray Kroc, what leads to them having massive wealth in their birth chart? I'm Jeremy Devins. This is the Quietmind Astrology podcast, and I've been studying Vedic Astrology for 20 plus years and looked at thousands of charts. And today I'm going to be responding to a request from the comments asking for more clarity about what creates massive wealth in a chart. And the things I'm going to share are hidden. They're not so obvious. It's not the rising sign. It's not the moon sign. It's not the sun. It's not something you just see by looking at a chart. You have to kind of know these hidden things to look for in the chart. And once you see them, they're pretty easy to work with. So that's what we're going to do today. And if there's something you want to see on a future episode, just leave a comment on Spotify or YouTube. So the first thing you want to do is get your own free birth chart at quietmindastrology.com. And there's a free training as well to guide you through how to read the chart and your ascendant, sun and moon, your big three. That's all there at quietmindastrology.com. So if you don't already have your chart, get your chart, see if you have these placements. Look at charts of people you know closely, your friends, spouse, maybe your partner is going to have one of these wealth indicators. But the first thing I need to say is that just because somebody has this or doesn't have this does not indicate their fortune. You need to look at a lot of factors to understand that, and you always have free will and choice of what you do with the hand that you're dealt by the universe. So you could be handed a very difficult hand, like I was and many people are, or you could be dealt a very easy hand, and they all have their own strengths and weaknesses. Nobody's life is necessarily better or worse than anybody else. But if you're looking to create wealth in your life, you can look to these houses. And this is the part that's more on the surface and less hidden. Those of you who are more experienced, you already know these things, like the second house has to do with your assets. Fourth house is your fixed assets. And as I'm talking about the houses, we're talking about the shapes on your chart. So the first house is the top center, second house is to the left. And we go counterclockwise in order through all of the houses until we arrive at the 12th house on the top right. And when we're talking about houses, we're just talking about the 360-degree view of the sky. So the first house is what's rising on the eastern horizon, and the seventh house is what's setting on the western horizon. And then when you're born, you have a sign rising on the eastern horizon. You have planets in the sky at that time of your birth, and that determines now you might have your sun in the first house because it's on the eastern horizon, or sun in the second, third, fourth, wherever it lands is based on that moment of your birth. And Vedic astrology is actually true to the sky at the moment, which Western astrology is not. Western astrology is really based on the seasons and not the signs, not space and time, not the constellations in the same way. It's more about the seasons. So if you have a Western chart, you probably have a different sign in Vedic astrology because there's now a 24-degree difference between where Western astrology was 2,000 years ago and where astronomy is today because of the precession of the equinoxes. But all that to say, the houses determine like the areas of life and the area of the sky, and this is the area of a certain energy in your life. And there are these are the major houses I want to talk about that have the impact on different aspects of your wealth. But the ones that I think are the most important to really emphasize today are the 6th and the 10th house. So the 6th is the bottom left corner, the 10th is the right side of the chart, the big sideways triangle or square there. So the 6th house is your daily routine and work and your debt that you take on or not. And this is where you have the most influence over your income. It's like the work that you actually do day by day, the routines that you set, the time you put in, and the effort you put in. And then the 10th house is the career that you choose and the path that you're on, your dharma, what you need to fulfill in this life. And there's other impact in factors of all these things, but for what we're talking about today, if you're looking for like, okay, if I do have these indicators I'm going to talk about, or you don't have these indicators, always come back to like, well, you can control your daily routine. You control when you wake up or go to sleep. You may even have a very busy, full life, but you still have choice in how you choose to use the time you have, the hand that you're dealt. And even people who have a lot of wealth and resources and time still may struggle emotionally or relationally or other parts of their lives. So again, there's no guarantee of anything, but you get to choose what to do with it. But astrology shows us there's very likely result of certain things. And this is how I'm able to predict things, usually with 80+% accuracy of what we see through patterns over time and through many charts and thousands of case studies I've done. So when you look at the houses, if you don't have a planet in a house, it doesn't mean you don't have that thing, right? If you don't have a planet in the sixth house, doesn't mean you don't have a daily routine. Everybody has a daily routine, but you have to look at the ruler of that house. And now this is the hidden thing that we're talking about today is house rulers. So if you're not familiar with that, take my free training, decode your big three, start to read your chart at quietmindastrology.com. So you start to learn like every sign has a ruler. So when you look at your chart, you're going to have houses that don't have a planet in them. So like if you don't have a planet in the sixth house and the number 1 is there, that means Aries is in your sixth house. So the daily routine is like Aries qualities, but you also want to look to Mars and how Mars is doing in your chart, because that tells you what the energy is like in your sixth house. It's almost like Mars is there, but it's not really. But if it's 2, that means Taurus is there, and that's ruled by Venus. If it's 3, it means Gemini is there, that's ruled by Mercury, and so on. So the house rulers tell us a lot. Like your daily routine has to answer to something, and it answers to the ruler of that house. If it's Capricorn or Aquarius, your daily routine is answering to Saturn. So your daily routine is probably going to benefit from being more structured, disciplined, organized. And when it's not that way, there's a misalignment in your expression of the gifts that you have and your soul's essence, and you're going to feel more struggle, conflict, just not going to feel aligned and harmonious if you're not using the gifts of each house. And it takes time to really have this relationship with it, but this is part of the work of astrology. It's like seeing the hand that you're dealt and then knowing how to use with the strengths that are there. And some people do this very intuitively. Some people struggle with it. There's weaknesses and challenges of everything in your chart too. So you might be dipping into more of those. And when you do, it's good to reorient back to the gifts of that placement. But that is a topic for another time, because I just want to bring that up today of the rulership, because that's what we're looking at with people like Oprah Winfrey, Richard Branson, Ray Kroc, and other very wealthy people we'll look at today as examples. It's not just Ray Kroc has Saturn in the first house. Okay, he's going to be hardworking in general, but that's not the main thing that points to massive wealth, because if everyone who has Saturn in the first house was massively wealthy, then there'd be a lot of very wealthy people, a lot more than there are. But what we're actually looking at in this episode are the rulers. So the first indicator we're going to look at 8 of these today. The first one is actually 3 of them, which I consider house exchanges that lead to 10-figure incomes, billionaire incomes. So Ray Kroc, Richard Branson have this first rule. And these are rules from the old text and the tradition, and it's believed that this wisdom is channeled and passed down into generations. Whether that's true or not, we do know it works. And it's not everyone who has this is going to be a billionaire, but there's that potential. That hand is dealt. And you can live into that potential or not. And you have the free will of that. But Richard Branson and Ray Kroc are examples of people who did live into that energy to become super wealthy and successful. To a somewhat lesser degree, but 40 million is very nice. Andrea Bocelli, Marlon Brando, Hulk Hogan, well into that multi-million, tens of millions of figures in their life, and they had the same rule in their chart, the same thing showing up. So it's the ruler of the first is in the second house, and the ruler of the second house is in the first house. So it's an exchange going on. And it seems very simple, like that's going to lead to massive wealth, but it does. And we have it here with Richard Branson. So the ruler of the first, all right, so the first house has Cancer in it. The ruler of Cancer is the moon, and it's in the second house, right? So hopefully that's all making sense. And if you want the visuals, you can watch on Spotify or YouTube. But the ruler of the first, Cancer is in the first. The ruler of that is the moon. It's in the second. And then the next part of the rule, the ruler of the second is in the first. So The ruler of the second here, we look at what is the sign? It's Leo, and that's ruled by the sun. So the ruler of the second is in the first house. It's very simple, just a sign exchange, a house exchange from the first to second house. So the ruler of the houses, right? So that's one example. If you have Cancer in your first house and Sun in the first house, and you have Moon in the second house, then you're going to have this placement. You have this exchange, which is a potential of 10-figure income. Now, again, what you do with that is up to you. And there's other placements in your chart, other parts of the hand that you're dealt. Doesn't guarantee just because you're born you become a 10 billionaire person, but it has that potential with that one placement. Now, Ray Kroc also has this same thing. Born on October 5th, 1902 at 12:30 in Oak Park, Illinois. So the ruler of the first. All right, what is in the first? It's Sagittarius. What rules Sagittarius? Can answer, fill in the blank. It's Jupiter. Jupiter is in Capricorn. What rules Capricorn? Saturn. All right, so he has the ruler of the first is in the second. The ruler of the second is in the first. Very simple. Just a house exchange going on there. So Ray Kroc has it. Richard Branson have it. Multi-billionaire wealth. Other people have it too. Also just have great wealth. Like I mentioned, Marlon Brando, Hulk Hogan. Not necessarily billionaires, but very high up there. And that is the rule. That's very simple, right? Simple and easy to follow. You can look for it in your chart, look for people you know, and that potential is there. The next one is similar, but now we're talking about the second and 11th house. And why do you think these are so powerful, right? So the first and second, the first one we looked at, the first house is the self, second house is resources and wealth. And as we talked about at the beginning, liquid assets also could be inheritances, money that comes from resources. First house is the self, and that amplifies. Whenever you have the first house relating to any of these houses, it just amplifies the potential for wealth. Like the first house ruling it, or the ruler of the first is there, or however this plays out, but there's some sort of relationship like this. And you think of the ruler kind of like a landlord or a boss or a leader. It's like, who is the second house answering to? The wealth answering to the self. Who's the self answering to? Wealth. So there's a very strong relationship there in the second and first. Then we add the 11th and second is the next rule we're looking at. Second house is liquid assets. 11th house is cash flow and profits. So the cash flow and profits are answering to the liquid assets. The liquid assets are answering to the cash flow and profits. There's a nice, very strong connection there. And we see that with the second ruler of the second, right? For Oprah Winfrey, born January 29th, 1954 at 4:30 a.m. in Mississippi, Kosciuszko, Mississippi. So the second house, what is the ruler, right? So we got first look, what is the sign? It's Capricorn. What rules Capricorn is Saturn. Saturn's over in the 11th house in Libra. What rules Libra is Venus. All right, so we have the ruler of the second in the 11th. That's Saturn in the 11th. And then the ruler of the 11th in the second. That's Venus ruling the 11th house. And not only is it that placement, that yoga, but it's also Venus involved, which wants desire and wealth, and Saturn, which is hard work and discipline. Like we saw with Ray Kroc, having Saturn involved there brings a lot of hard work and discipline. And Richard Branson is not really like hard working guy. He definitely works a lot, but it's Saturn is there with the moon, but the yoga is involving the sun and the moon, which is kind of renewal kind of energy. It's just after a new moon because the moon is just after the sun in this chart. So it's that kind of renewal. And he's like a very starting new things, very entrepreneurial, beginning kind of things, energy. So it's a little different for him. But there it is for Oprah Winfrey, ruler of the second, 11th, ruler of 11th and second. Pretty simple, straightforward. That's another hidden indicator of wealth that you don't see so obviously when you look at a chart. Like you have to know to look for that. And then some other rules, like the ruler of the first and the ninth, ruler of the ninth and the first. That's another example. Many more examples. So that's the third one. The fourth one is the ruler of the first is in the ninth, and the ruler of the second is in the ninth. Now, this is very common among nine-figure earners. Rush Limbaugh, Garth Brooks, Conan O'Brien, Jessica Alba, over 100 million net worth, at least according to Wikipedia, Google. That may be a little bit off, but this is a very positive place. I'll take 100 million. Sure. Okay. No problem. It's not a billion, but it's 100 million. And Rush Limbaugh, again, it's the ruler of the first and the ninth, and the ruler of the second and the ninth. And so we look at his ascendant is Capricorn, and then the second house becomes Aquarius. So it's, again, the ruler of the first and the second is in the ninth. And this is going to be more common among Capricorn risings because that ends up being Saturn rules both Capricorn and Aquarius. That means now the first and second are Saturn signs. So if somebody is Capricorn rising with Saturn in the ninth house, then that's a strong indicator of wealth. And Rush Limbaugh has it in his chart. Again, Garth Brooks, rotate this chart real quick if you're watching the video. He has a huge stellium in his ninth house. So if anyone has like 5 or 6 placements in their ninth house, the odds are more likely they'll end up having this yoga like him. So the ruler of the first for him, Taurus, is in the first house. What rules that is Venus. That's in the ninth house. His second house is Gemini. What rules that is Mercury. They're both in the ninth house. So he has this yoga that can produce massive wealth. Conan O'Brien also has it. His first house is Leo. That's ruled by what? The sun. Second house, Virgo, ruled by what? Is Mercury. So Sun and Mercury are typically close together, never more than one house or sign away. So very common Sun and Mercury are conjunct. So any Leo rising is more likely to have this yoga because Sun and Mercury ending up in the ninth house is more likely than not, and very likely for Leo risings. And so that's a very good wealth yoga as well. A few more I'll just briefly touch on, and then we'll finish up today. And if you want to see if you have any of these yogas or what other yogas, there's many more factors that you might have in your chart. You can schedule a reading at quietmindastrology.com. We'll look at your chart. But there's ruler of the first and the 10th, and the ruler of the second exalted. That's a nice one. Ruler of the fifth in the fifth house, and ruler of 11th in the ninth. That's another rule. The next rule is ruler of the second and fourth is in the ninth, and then the ruler of the 11th is in the second. And then the last rule is the Lakshmi Yoga I'll mention. So the ruler of the ninth is Mul Trikona sign and a trine house, which is 1, 5, or 9, and the Lagna Lord is exalted. That is considered a Lakshmi Yoga. So it's 3 rules for that one. And these are some hidden signs of millionaires in Vedic astrology. Let me know what you found helpful. If you have any yogas, if you have any questions or things you want to see in future episodes, leave a comment on Spotify or YouTube, and have a great day.